At 3 a.m., Emily's phone buzzed on the nightstand, its vibration louder than her heartbeat, and the message on the screen sliced her open. Daniel said, "We need to talk." Her trembling hand hovered, unable to breathe as she whispered his name into the silence. The room pressed down, heavy with shadows, and every second stretched like hours. Emily said, "Why tonight, Daniel? Why now?" The unanswered screen glowed, a cruel light in the darkness. She clutched the phone tighter, her chest burning with fear of what silence could mean. Daniel's absence screamed louder than his words. Emily's pillow was damp, not from sleep, but from nights of waiting. The tick clock mocked her as if each second stole another piece of hope. Her heart begged for distance to vanish, but distance only grew. Daniel said, "We need to talk," yet Emily's heart translated it into goodbye. Every sacrifice, every lonely night, every dream of forever seemed to collapse under those 4 words. Storm had broken before dawn. Emily stared at the silent phone, her breath sharp and shallow. Emily said, "Daniel, why would you choose this hour?" Memories of their last call replayed, where Daniel's voice promised forever. Tonight, those words dissolved. The room was too quiet, and every corner pressed against her chest. Emily felt her sacrifices echo back, each one louder. She left dinners untouched, birthdays missed, all for the promise of Daniel's return. Now 4 words shook the ground. Daniel said, "We need to talk," yet gave no answer. Emily's hands shook, her body unable to rest. Her eyes closed, but her mind screamed. She replayed every moment, searching for signs. Had Daniel's laughter been forced? Was the silence his choice or her fear? She clutched her pillow as if it could replace him. The distance became a wall. Love had been her anchor, but tonight it dragged her under. Emily whispered, "Daniel, don't let this be goodbye." Emily scrolled back through old messages, her thumb hovering on Daniel's words. Daniel said, "Forever is ours, Emily." Those letters once felt carved in stone. Tonight, they felt like cracks in glass. Emily's tears blurred the screen, but she kept reading, needing to hold on to something solid. Her heart raced, her breath breaking. Phone buzzed again, but no new message came. The ghost of Daniel's promises haunted the room. Emily said, "Daniel, you swore distance was nothing." She slammed the phone against her chest, desperate for warmth. The glow lit her face like fire and ash. In her silence, the past screamed. She remembered laughing at midnight, waiting hours just to hear his voice. She remembered believing oceans could be crossed by love. But tonight, the ocean drowned her, and Daniel's words sank into the deep. Emily clutched the phone harder, the silence sharper than screams. Emily's room felt like a coffin, walls closing in. Daniel's absence weighed heavier than his presence ever had. Emily said, "Daniel, you can't leave me in silence." She held the phone higher, willing it to ring. The clock's ticking pierced her ears. Her heart begged for sound, any sound. Every sacrifice replayed, her job delayed, family dinners skipped, friends lost. All she had left was Daniel. Emily's voice cracked. "Daniel, talk to me." Her reflection in the window was a stranger, a broken figure waiting for words that may never come. Fear turned to rage, then back to fear again. She whispered into emptiness, "Daniel, please don't let this be the end." Tears blurred her view, dripping onto the glowing phone. The room smelled of damp cotton, her sweat and tears mingling into despair. Outside, the world slept, unaware that Emily's forever had shattered. Emily's voice broke as she repeated Daniel's words aloud. Daniel said, "We need to talk." The sound echoed in the small room, slicing deeper each time. Emily said, "Daniel, you promised forever." Her pillow was drenched, her throat raw from silent cries. The phone felt heavier, as if it carried every mile between them. Emily pressed it to her ear, praying for a sound. None came. Her body shook, knees pulled close to her chest. She remembered Daniel's smile, the one she trusted, the one she fought for. Tonight, it felt like betrayal. Emily whispered, "Daniel, don't make me beg." The night swallowed her plea. She clutched her blanket tighter, as if it could shield her from truth. Silence answered louder than any scream. The clock ticked on, unbothered by heartbreak. Forever was collapsing, and Emily was left holding its ashes. Morning light crept through Emily's curtains, but her body felt anchored in the weight of night. Emily said, "Daniel, I stayed awake for you again." Her phone lay untouched, silent as stone. She remembered every sacrifice. The birthdays she watched alone, the empty seat at her graduation, the unanswered calls on her hardest nights. Emily had chosen patience, believing Daniel's love was worth the ache. Daniel said once, "Every mile will make us stronger." Yet each mile now felt like a chasm. Her friends moved forward with laughter and partners by their side, while she clung to a glowing screen that no longer glowed for her. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I gave you years." The air was heavy, carrying the bitterness of waiting. She wrapped her arms around herself, fighting the emptiness where his embrace should have been. Emily's heart begged for a reason, for proof that her loyalty had not been wasted. Later that afternoon, Emily sat at a coffee shop, her gaze fixed on couples laughing across tables. Emily said, "Daniel, I wait while the world moves." Steam rose from her untouched drink, curling like unanswered questions. She recalled their video calls, the way Daniel smiled when saying, "You're my forever." Today, those memories hurt more than silence. Her friend Lily leaned closer, concern etched on her face. Lily said, "Emily, you can't keep giving yourself away like this." Emily forced a smile, her lips trembling. The cafe buzzed with life, but her heart remained tethered to a voice a continent away. Every sound reminded her of absence. She whispered, "Daniel, forever can't feel this lonely." Lily sighed, eyes heavy with unspoken truth. The weight of loyalty pressed down harder as Emily clung to hope that had become chains. At night, Emily returned home and lay on her bed staring at glowing stars taped to her ceiling. Daniel gave them to her years ago, promising, "When you look up, it'll feel like I'm there." Emily whispered, "Daniel, where are you now?" Silence echoed back. She replayed every moment, their laughter stitched into her memory. The stars glowed faintly, mocking the promise of closeness across distance. Emily said, "I traded nights with friends for nights waiting on you." Her voice cracked as her phone buzzed, only a reminder, not a message. The loneliness swallowed her whole. She buried her face in her hands, shaking. Every mile between them stretched further in her chest. Emily's tears dampened the sheets as her body curled tight, desperate for warmth that never arrived. The next day, Emily walked through a crowded street, clutching her phone close. People moved in pairs, laughter and chatter rising above the traffic. Emily said, "Daniel, I walk alone again." The city pulsed with energy, but her heart dragged behind. She replayed Daniel's words, "We'll close the distance soon." Soon had stretched into years. Her phone stayed cold in her hand, no new message. She stopped by a bookstore window, reflection staring back at her, hollow eyes and forced smile. Emily's phone buzzed, but only a news alert. Her lips parted with disappointment, the air catching in her throat. She whispered, "Daniel, why does silence answer me louder than your love?" The crowd surged around her, but she stood still, anchored in heartbreak while the world blurred. That evening, Emily sat at her kitchen table with her younger brother Mark, who pushed a plate of food toward her. Mark said, "Emily, you haven't eaten in days." She forced a weak smile. Emily said, "Daniel will call tonight. I can't eat until he does." Mark sighed, frustration spilling into his voice. Mark said, "Emily, you're losing yourself for someone who isn't here." Her fork scraped the plate, but she did not lift it. The walls around them echoed with silence louder than their words. Emily stared at the empty chair across from her, as if Daniel might appear. She whispered, "Daniel, I've given everything." Mark shook his head, his concern heavy with love. Emily sat frozen, chained to hope, her heart bleeding silently under the weight of waiting. Emily stared at her phone, the unanswered calls piling like bricks on her chest. Emily said, "Daniel, you promised to pick up tonight." The screen glowed with missed attempts, each one colder than the last. Hours stretched into silence. Emily pressed her forehead against the wall, fighting the scream in her throat. Daniel once said, "No matter the hour, I'll always answer." Tonight proved otherwise. Her body trembled, caught between anger and despair. She whispered, "Daniel, why are you leaving me alone in this void?" Her mind replayed his laughter with someone else in the background during their last call. Was it a friend, or was it her replacement? The suspicion gnawed like fire. Emily clutched the phone harder, her nails biting into her palm. Love was slipping, replaced by shadows and questions. Silence grew louder, and every second felt like betrayal carved into her skin. The next morning, Emily sat at her desk, laptop open to her calendar where Daniel's birthday reminder blinked. Emily said, "Daniel, I remembered every year." Her fingers hovered over the keys, unsure if a message would even matter. She recalled how Daniel once said, "You never forget me, that's how I know it's real." Now she wondered if he even cared. Her co-workers laughed nearby, planning lunches, their voices a reminder of what she lacked. Emily's chest tightened, envy pricking her heart. Her reflection in the screen looked hollow. She typed a greeting, then deleted it. Typed again, then erased it. Every word felt useless against silence. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I don't know how much longer I can carry this alone." She shut the laptop, fighting tears, the day already heavy with dread. That evening, Emily scrolled through social media, her heart lurching at a photo of Daniel smiling beside another woman. The caption read, "Best night ever." Emily said, "Daniel? Who is she?" Jealousy struck like a blade, carving deep into her chest. Daniel once assured her, "There's no one but you." The image screamed otherwise. Her stomach twisted, breath catching as she zoomed into their smiles. Every detail looked like betrayal, the closeness of their shoulders, the joy in his eyes. She whispered, "Daniel, am I the only one still holding on?" She threw the phone onto the bed, tears streaming, but snatched it back seconds later, desperate for explanation. Silence answered again. Emily curled against the headboard, drowning in questions. Trust began to crumble, leaving nothing but cracks. Later, Emily confided in Lily at the park, her voice barely steady. Emily said, "Lily, he was with someone else last night." Lily's eyes hardened. Lily said, "Emily, you deserve better than a ghost who chooses silence." Children laughed in the distance, their joy mocking the heaviness between them. Emily's fingers twisted in her lap, restless. She whispered, "Lily, what if it's nothing? What if I'm overthinking?" Lily shook her head, frustration breaking through. Lily said, "Emily, love isn't meant to be proof-hunted in photographs." Emily's heart clung to scraps, but her mind began to break. She looked away, ashamed, trapped between hope and truth. The autumn wind cut through the air, carrying with it a chill that sank deep into her bones. That night, Emily's family gathered in the living room, voices firm. Her mother said, "Emily, this distance is breaking you." Her father crossed his arms, his silence sharper than words. Emily said, "Daniel loves me, he's just busy." Her voice wavered, betraying her. Her mother said, "Emily, love does not vanish into silence." The words cut through, leaving Emily raw. What? Her brother Mark sat nearby, shaking his head. Mark said, "Emily, we've watched you disappear piece by piece." Tears welled as Emily turned away, clutching her phone like a shield. Emily whispered, "Daniel, they don't understand." But part of her feared they did. The room fell quiet, heavy with truth. For the first time, Emily felt her loyalty bend under the weight of reality. The cracks widened, and forever no longer looked whole. Emily's phone finally lit up after days of silence, her heart leaping as Daniel's name appeared. She answered quickly, voice shaking. Emily said, "Daniel, I thought you were gone." On the other end, Daniel's tone was heavy. Daniel said, "Emily, I need to tell you something. Her body stiffened, her chest tightening as dread crawled through her. Daniel continued, I haven't been honest with you. The words dropped like stones into her heart. Emily's mind raced back through every unanswered call, every unexplained silence. Emily whispered, Daniel, what do you mean? His breath was uneven, carrying guilt. Daniel said, There's someone else, and it started months ago. Emily's knees buckled as she gripped the phone tighter. Her breath came sharp, her body frozen. The world around her dissolved into ringing silence. Every promise shattered in seconds, and forever turned into betrayal. Emily sank onto her bed, the phone slipping from her trembling hand. Emily said, Daniel, you swore it was only me. Daniel's voice cracked through the speaker. Daniel said, I didn't mean for it to happen. Her chest heaved, tears spilling onto the sheets. Emily whispered, Daniel, every night I waited for you. His silence was louder than his confession. She replayed the nights she starved for his voice, the mornings she woke to absence. Her sacrifices burned in her memory, the dinners missed, the laughter forgone, the years poured into waiting. Emily shouted through sobs, Daniel, you took my forever and gave it to someone else. Her voice echoed in the room, sharp as broken glass. Daniel remained quiet, guilt heavy in the air. Emily's body shook as betrayal carved deep wounds inside her. The next day, Emily sat across from Lily at the cafe, her hands shaking around her cup. Emily said, Lily, Daniel admitted he's with someone else. Lily's jaw tightened, her eyes burning with anger. Lily said, Emily, he never deserved your devotion. Emily's voice faltered. Emily said, I gave him everything. The cafe's warmth felt cruel against the ice in her chest. Lily reached across the table, gripping Emily's hand firmly. Lily said, Emily, you cannot keep bleeding for someone who chose another. Tears slipped down Emily's cheeks as she clutched Lily's hand. The hum of chatter and clinking cups faded into nothing. Her mind spun with images of Daniel smiling with another woman. Emily whispered, Lily, how do I let go of forever when I built my life around it? That evening, Emily's family confronted her again, their words sharper now. Her mother said, Emily, we warned you, silence hides secrets. Emily's tears flowed faster, her voice breaking. Emily said, Daniel admitted it, there's another. Her father clenched his jaw, the disappointment clear. Her brother Mark leaned forward, eyes heavy with sorrow. Mark said, Emily, you lost yourself in waiting, and he took advantage. She pressed her phone to her chest as though it still held his love. Emily whispered, Daniel, why wasn't I enough? The room was tense, filled with grief and anger. Her mother shook her head. Her father looked away. Mark's hand rested on her shoulder, gentle but firm. The truth was undeniable. The love she clung to was not hers anymore. That night, Emily walked alone through the quiet streets, the weight of betrayal crushing her. Streetlights flickered above, the cold wind biting her skin. Emily said, Daniel, you were supposed to be my forever. Her voice cracked in the empty night. Memories of their late-night calls replayed, his laughter echoing in her ears, now poisoned with lies. Emily whispered, Daniel, I was waiting while you were with her. She wrapped her arms tightly around herself, her body trembling. The city felt endless, its noise distant, her pain louder. She stopped beneath a street lamp, tears glistening as they fell onto the pavement. Emily whispered, Daniel, you broke me. Her words faded into the night, unanswered, swallowed by silence. Emily's hands trembled as she dialed Daniel's number, heart pounding like thunder. When he answered, his tone was flat. Emily said, Daniel, you can't just break me and walk away. Silence lingered before Daniel replied, Emily, I never meant to hurt you. Her voice cracked with fury. Emily shouted, You stole years of my life. His sigh carried guilt, heavy as stone. Daniel said, I was lonely, I made mistakes. Emily's tears blurred her vision. She whispered, Daniel, mistakes don't look like love. The phone shook in her grip, her anger boiling. Emily's breath came in sobs, her chest collapsing. Daniel muttered, "I didn't know how to end it." Her scream tore through the night. Emily shouted, "You ended me instead." The confrontation erupted, raw and uncontainable, the truth searing both ends of the line. Emily's voice lowered to a whisper, fragile yet sharp. Emily said, "Daniel, I gave up everything for you." His voice cracked. Daniel said, "Emily, I never asked you to wait." Her sob broke into anger. Emily shouted, "You begged me to trust you." Silence stretched until his shallow breath filled the line. Daniel said, "I thought I could love you across oceans, but I failed." Emily's hand clutched her chest, nails digging into skin. Emily said, "You failed us." Her body shook violently, heart tearing apart. Daniel said, "I'm sorry, but I can't undo it." Her lips quivered, words dripping with despair. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I don't know how to breathe without you." The silence that followed was crueler than any words. Daniel's voice grew harsh, frustration breaking through. Daniel said, "Emily, you're making this harder." Her fury ignited. Emily shouted, "Harder? I lived in silence while you lived in lies." Her voice cracked as sobs blended with rage. Daniel muttered, "It's not that simple." Emily snapped back, "It was simple when you promised forever." Her throat burned, but words poured out like fire. Emily said, "You told me oceans couldn't drown us, but you sank me." Daniel remained quiet, guilt filling the line. Emily's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Her voice dropped, raw and broken. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I was enough. You just chose not to see it." Her words pierced like knives, cutting into the silence. The phone call erupted into a storm. Emily shouted, "Daniel, you don't get to decide when my forever ends." Daniel's voice grew desperate. Daniel said, "Emily, I'm sorry. I can't be what you need." Her sobs turned into broken laughter, sharp and hollow. Emily said, "You were what I needed until you weren't." His breathing was ragged, the weight of guilt pressing every word. Daniel whispered, "I loved you, but I love her too." Emily froze, her body numb, air gone from her lungs. Emily said, "You tore me open for a love that was never whole." The silence that followed burned deeper than screams. Emily's voice turned sharp, final, a blade forged from pain. Emily said, "Daniel, you don't get to call this love." Daniel stammered, "Emily, please, I never wanted this." Her breath steadied, tears drying into steel. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I was your forever. You turned it into a lie." Her words sliced clean, final. Silence followed, his voice gone, the line dead. Emily dropped the phone, its thud echoing like a grave closing. She curled onto the floor, body trembling, yet a fire sparked faintly in her eyes. The storm had broken, and though shattered, she survived the clash. Forever was gone, but Emily remained. The morning after the confrontation, Emily sat on her porch with swollen eyes, watching the sunrise burn across the sky. Emily whispered, "Daniel, the world moves even when love dies." The light felt cruel in its beauty. Birds sang, mocking her silence. The phone beside her was turned off, heavy with finality. Emily said, "Daniel, your voice will no longer decide my mornings." She sipped cold coffee, bitter like betrayal. For the first time in years, there was no waiting for a notification, no hope of his call. The emptiness pressed down, but it was hers alone to carry. Emily whispered, "Daniel, you left me pieces, but I'll gather them." The sunrise painted her face, marking a fragile beginning. Later, Emily walked through the park, leaves crunching underfoot, her chest still heavy, but her steps steady. She whispered, "Daniel, every mile broke me, but I'm still walking." Children laughed nearby, their joy distant yet grounding. She passed couples holding hands, their love both a wound and a reminder. Emily said, "Daniel, I may never forget, but I will not keep waiting." Her phone buzzed in her pocket, ignored for the first time. She inhaled sharply, the air crisp, her body trembling between grief and strength. Emily whispered, "Daniel, this silence will belong to me now." The path stretched ahead, uncertain but hers to take. That evening, Emily sat with Lily at the cafe once more, her voice calmer, though sorrow lingered. Emily said, "Lily, he's gone. I have to learn to breathe without him." Lily's eyes softened, filled with relief and sadness. Lily said, "Emily, you deserve love that doesn't break you." Emily forced a faint smile, hands wrapped around her cup. The coffee was warm this time, not left to grow cold in despair. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I carried us both, but now I will carry only me." Lily's hand covered hers, steadying her. The cafe noise swelled around them, life moving, reminding Emily that her world did not end with Daniel. That night, Emily stood in front of her mirror, eyes still raw but clearer. Emily said, "Daniel, I no longer recognize the girl who waited." Her reflection was fragile yet defiant, tears mixed with resilience. She brushed her hair slowly, movements deliberate, reclaiming herself piece by piece. Emily whispered, "Daniel, you don't own the rest of my story." She touched the photo of them taped to the mirror, her hand shaking, then pulled it free. With trembling breath, she let it fall into the trash. The sound was small but final. Her lips trembled, but no tears followed. She whispered, "Daniel, goodbye." Emily sat with her family in the living room, the weight of weeks still in her eyes but her voice steadier. Her mother said, "Emily, you look lighter tonight." Emily nodded faintly. Emily said, "Daniel is no longer my forever." Her father leaned back, sighing relief. Her brother Mark smiled sadly, saying, "Emily, I'm proud you chose yourself." She clutched a blanket close, her body still aching but no longer collapsing. Emily whispered, "Daniel, you'll always be a scar, not my ending." Her family's presence wrapped her in warmth stronger than distance. For the first time in months, Emily allowed herself to exhale without waiting for his name to light her screen. Emily walked through the airport, suitcase rolling behind her, heart pounding with finality. Emily whispered, "Daniel, this was where I dreamed we'd meet again." The departure board flickered with destinations, none leading to him. She stopped at the gate, staring at the crowd reuniting with embraces and laughter. Emily's lips trembled as she said, "Daniel, I waited for years and you never came." Her chest ached, but her legs stood firm. She lowered her suitcase handle, hands clenched at her sides. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I will never wait here again." The noise of the terminal roared around her, but for once, silence inside felt like freedom. That night, Emily sat on her bed holding Daniel's old letters, the handwriting once her lifeline. Emily said, "Daniel, every word once gave me air." She stacked them carefully, her hands trembling. Emily whispered, "Daniel, now they suffocate me." With shaking breath, she lit a candle. The flame flickered against the pages as she set the first letter above it. The paper curled, blackening at the edges. Tears blurred her sight, but her jaw tightened. Emily whispered, "Daniel, your promises burn easier than they were spoken." Smoke filled the room, sharp and bitter, but her lungs expanded as if freed. Emily walked along the shoreline at dawn, waves crashing softly, air cold and bracing. Emily said, "Daniel, this ocean was once our bridge." She threw a small stone into the water, ripples spreading across the surface. Emily whispered, "Daniel, it is only distance now." The sky was painted with streaks of pink and gray, a horizon stretching wider than their love ever could. Emily lifted her face to the wind, letting it sting her skin. Her tears mixed with the salt in the air. Emily whispered, "Daniel, this ocean no longer carries your name." She stood tall, the tide pulling gently at her feet, carrying away what remained. Emily sat at the cafe window alone, once their shared spot of laughter through video calls. She whispered, "Daniel, I no longer wait for your face here." Her cup steamed gently, hands wrapped around it with steadiness she hadn't known before. Couples passed outside, shadows stretching across the glass. Emily's reflection looked different, a woman marked by scars but unbroken. Emily whispered, "Daniel, I may never forgive, but I will live." She lifted her cup, sipping slowly, not to wait but to exist. The hum of life around her no longer felt cruel, only real. That night, Emily lay in bed with her phone on the nightstand, screen dark and silent. She whispered, "Daniel, you will never light this screen again." The words cut sharp but steady, final as steel. She closed her eyes, pillow cool beneath her cheek, body heavy but no longer breaking. For the first time in years, she did not reach for the phone before sleep. Emily whispered, "Daniel, forever died, but I live." The room fell quiet, not suffocating but free. And in the silence, she exhaled a breath that felt like survival. The scar remained, but so did she.